It was 2007 when the housing crash went, and
they had, what was it? It's been they used to get broke.
You saw the shit really hit.
It was no docs, no income. What is it? Ninja loans. Was it no income, no job?
How do people think
no
that they could
verification?
possibly keep that up? That's basically a giant Ponzi scheme based off of loss. And they said, oh, well, Lehman Brothers could never go under, Bear Stearns. Well, you know what? That kind of lending led to them going under. When you lend with, in my opinion, trying to lend to the point where you think you could just discharge all your bad debt and turn it into debt at such a large level, it doesn't exist. It begins to tip. You can't just say, oh, I make $80,000 a year and pencil it, and you need to verify that income. How do you know the person's telling the damn truth? How do you know that they know how to handle an adjustable rate loan?
I remember I was doing a jumbo loan, and that was before George Bush jacked it all the way up to 800. I think it was 840 or 860,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to pay another point and a quarter, and it used to be at I think 240 or 250. That was oh man. This lady, she was saying, okay, I have a house of mine. It was a purchase. So I said, okay. I said, I've been looking out with my girlfriend all day, and she said, here's kind of some of my, I pulled their credit, and they were in about the 800s. And it was 830, 840.
Pretty damn good. Right?
It is pretty damn good, though. But here's the thing. She wanted something close to $1 million home.
But what do they actually have?
They couldn't afford it. Now here's the deal. They were not required because their credit score was so high. They're not required. Usually you have 2 years bank stubs or bank
Yeah, to
statements.
verify you can even afford the down payment, let alone the payments per month. There's a certain formula that's based off of net liquidity.
You're right. But so the thing goes this. No verification. If the interest, or not your interest rate, but if your credit score was high enough.
So a person that makes $80,000 a year can get a loan of $1 million and buy a $1.2 million property.
Absolutely right.
And they think that they can pull off the payment of
they lie. They lie. And I told her, once I ran the numbers, I said, do you have a moment? And she said,
they know what the payment's going to be a month?
I told her what the payments were. And she said, I really want this house. And I said, I didn't say I didn't think you could afford it. I said, Did
you put about almost $250, $300 down just for that?
We put the numbers in there.
Yeah.
I said, if you keep anything it's 10%, then it was 10%, but if you had to carry mortgage insurance.
Sure.
So until you got past that 20%. Anyway, long story short.
There's no way in hell she could possibly.
But the gist of it is that there was so much greed during that time. She said, she called me back in 2 days. She said, Bill, I completely forgot that we had some stocks and bonds, that we're looking to liquidate. And I said,
is that still enough? Is that enough to handle down payment?
She created it out of thin air.
Oh, come on.
She created that shit.
No verification.
No verification.
No one. That's what's wrong.
That's what happened whenever you have a high enough credit score.
It doesn't mean high enough credit score means you just go with money. It doesn't mean you have enough money to handle X amount of debt.
It doesn't.
It means absolutely
That's why,
nothing.
and there were so many of those that came across, and I had to disclose on the phone. I told her during my closing because it was all on the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, I need to let you know that that if any kind of fraud or whatnot, this or that, I said, because if you can't afford the payments and so on and so forth. I said that That's technically fraud. I just
Sure,
wanna
it's
make
fraud.
sure.
It's- You're basically saying you can afford something and then defaulting immediately.
Yeah.
Now you can get taken to court at the very least for that.
She
Serious. It's not something.
2 years later defaulted. They both did. And
Well, it depends. I mean,
they became. Oh my God! I remember whenever she called me. She was in a 60-day late. 30, 60, 90 day, and she said, "I cannot afford my payment." And I said, "Oh shit!" I said, "Okay, what happened?" She goes, "Well, my husband, he got whatchamacallit? He got laid off." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Does he have a new job that you can afford the normal monthly mortgage payment?"
No.
She goes, "Not quite." And I said, "Okay, well, how much can you afford?" I said, "You need to understand what a bank does." I said, "They sell money at interest rates." I said, "Your interest rate is probably doubled, if not tripled."
Plus, you have to pay all that money to get back into good standing on top of the penalties.
Absolutely.
And what? And if she can't afford,
You're doing a home loan modification, basically,
But
which
still-
is you're trying to throw what they owe to the back end of the loan, keep the interest rates stable.
it's like pulling a unicorn out of your ass.
It is, though, but there has to be some hardship temporary in nature to be able to speak to the guarantor.
Yeah, I mean,
Because the loan has been sold over so many times, and the truth is, the bank and the financial, they don't want to own a piece of real estate because then they have to deal with HOA.
well, number one, could she even afford the maintenance of the property, the upkeep, the HOA on top of the potential SIDS and LIDs on a high-end property, on top of a mortgage and property taxes? I mean, how much are you talking, depending on that, $6,500 plus a month? Like $7,000 when you figure in all of the taxes, about $7,000, and that's provided you put down the traditional down payment. If she put down less than that, holy shit, who knows what that amount was? Probably more.
And you're dealing with like a little, what is it, like little country club.
Well, if you're like in the ridges in Summerlin, unless you have a net worth of over $10 million, you shouldn't even be buying there.
Right.
Because just to upkeep the place, even beyond the HOA, the maintenance, you need to have enough money per year net just to deal with it. So, I mean, if you have a $4 million place there, you need, I'd say maybe net worth of 15 to 18 million, just that one, just to pull it off and still be able to live a decent life, go on vacations. You have to figure all that in. There's a maintenance on some of that stuff with all the custom appliances. Who knows how many tens of thousands that could cost? You need to have money in the bank. You know, and then people didn't have money, so what happened? Things fall into disrepair, right? They can't afford the maintenance on top of the mortgage payment. It's crazy.
You said you went to Rutgers, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good school. It's,
State school, but it's still pretty good.
oh, yeah.
Actually, the Bush campus in Piscataway was one of the more difficult campuses to get into. It houses the School of Engineering. It houses the medical school. I mean, students do their residency across the river at Robert Wood Johnson, but the main medical school, engineering, math, labs are there. Got to work with a lot of really cool stuff in the laser and optics labs. Those were fun.
Will they get you working with them? Will they get you working with them?
Oh my God, these giant cold fusion lasers, for example. One we called Big Bertha was huge. It was literally from that all the way to there. And half the time was spent calibrating it. The other part was setting it up and doing the experiment. And now that same laser is maybe a quarter of the size. From 41. It's gotten a lot smaller. They've condensed because optics and lasers evolve like that. Look at what they do with glasses, how thin they can make them. There's a constant engineering to make them better. That was one of my favorite parts of engineering, was the optics and lasers part. I don't know, I just really liked it. I like dealing with advanced prisms and differential equations. And it was quite I say of all of them, I enjoyed that one the most. That set of classes. I just enjoyed the advanced physics of it, how you could constantly be able to, with time, evolve it. There's such room.
It's like me being a fighter for 32 years and a wrestler. To be able to have a student mentality that you're constantly adding a polish in a different way, but the margin for error is so.
It is.
So
you have to basically, everything's computerized and calibrated, and then you get new calibrators, new machines, constantly as they evolve with the new formulas. Because the old machines can't handle some of the stuff that's done now. Plus, you get to a point where if you condense a formula, the material becomes fragile as a side effect. So the really high index glasses, because the prisms to make them, the math is not the prism in the glasses, the differential equations have been adapted with technology. The side effect of it being so high index is that a very thin lens like that is super fragile. It's not hardy. Because it's softer, in order to be malleable, to be able to do that, it can't be a rigid material. With the old formulas, you could deal with.
What are those machines generally run? Just curious.
I've been out of college for a while, so I don't know now. Back then, probably in the late 90s, each machine is 7 or 8 million plus. Plus all of the money it takes in the budget for maintenance, for the calibrators, for the people to come there and maintain it, so that you can do everything that you're supposed to for experiments. And that doesn't mean like calibrating it for the purpose. I mean maintaining it so that the lasers are not melting down or kept at the proper, level. One little mistake in calibration can mean the difference in stimulating something versus exploding it. Very small error. So all it takes is one small mistake in the differential equation to cause something to go wrong. One part of it, of that 200-step problem, one mistake. And especially with newer materials, because there's just less room for mistakes, like you said. We call them novel problems or storybook problems, all those where you do them step after step after step after step. Look at it, he's got him cornered.
I went to college at UCO. That's the champion right there, the black kid. He's originally from Ferguson, Missouri, and I used to wrestle each other.
He looks like he is pretty damn strong.
He is. He's actually very quick, though.
Got that speed, the level of speed there. You just can't beat his brute strength.
It's more than speed, though. See, I'm slower than he is.
It's just agility, knowing how to dodge and move around and come back and look at people's.
No, it's all strategy. He's a very explosive fighter, but one of the things I understand about fighting is the hand is quicker than the eye, which basically means that a lot of misdirection is needed.
You have to almost think 2 steps ahead, plus know the person's weakness to fit in order to
I did.
gain an advantage.
I wrestled him my freshman year. He was at the University of Missouri. And he was so quick, lightning quick, though, that I was like, oh my God. The only way that I ever beat him was that I wrestled him smarter. See, in a wrestling match, there's no fence there. You have out of bounds. So I put my back to the out of bounds, so every time he would shoot, he didn't have much mat to work with.
But how much of it is hard work and how much of it is just literally gift potential?
Almost all of it is hard work. But the thing is, it's much like what you're talking about. You're constantly, like I'm in a gym at least 10 to 12 hours a day. And
that's a lot. You're doing it for a living though, right?
Yeah,
so it's a different story.
You're in a constant state of meditation every day, all day. Like your
That's
diet.
one of your jobs, so it's obviously different than someone like me coming in an hour here and there.
But what I learned is this, is that somebody a long time ago told me this. They said, listen, do me a favor. Go take a cast iron skillet and turn it on like completely high, like as high as it'll go. I said, okay. And they said, leave it on there for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I said, okay, now go grab some water. Put that water and let it dance on top of that pan. And I said, so what are you getting at? And they said, listen, people that are fast do not have strong roots like that. You need to understand something. If I fought him, all I do is just kick low, right below that knee. I kick right at his feet. And the thing is this, when he's so quick with his movements and explosive, black people are so much quicker than me. So if a jab is a setup punch, then I put my jab on ice. All I do is shoot my power shot, two, loop, hook, uppercut, and I gotta throw where I think he's gonna be. Once I get his timing down,
a lot of it is a mathematical game.
Very much so.
Big time, except obviously applying the mathematics to it totally.
He's very skilled, and I know this though, man. Like, he's a very smart guy. His degree is in agricultural economics.
That's not easy. That requires quite a bit. It's very specialized.
Mm-hmm. Smart guy. He's like the 11th child of 12 kids, though, and where they had those riots some years back there. And
that area is very poor. It's a rough area.
Yep.
It's basically an inner city. I mean, St. Louis has a lot of suburban hoods.
Yep.
Not just the city. I mean, there are some suburbs that are just as bad. The crime rate there is in the top 3 in the country, I think. What's the worst of them all? Is it not taking into account, obviously, scope, what, New Orleans?
I'd say either New Orleans or Chicago.
And then St. Louis has to be right next to it. St. Louis has a serious, Missouri in general.
You know, I never really gave too much thought about that, but there's a story way back. You know, most black people will tell you that Martin Luther King Jr. is a hero to them. He was a peace man. If you ever learned the story, there was a guy named Toussaint Louverture. He beat the French, the English, and the Spanish. Mm-hmm. He's like the equivalent of David.
Right.
So, hell, even David, man, had to like be kind of honorable to Saul.
Yeah.
I mean, what Hashem basically told Saul that, you know, he took his favor from him, mm-hmm. kind of poisoned him, and with like a demon. So Saul played the lyre, kind of, you know, made that bad spirit go away though. But even still, man, the story about Toussaint Louverture, he beat the French, the English, and the Spanish.
That's quite a feat.
And then he took a boat ride with some family members, and they dumped him off in Louisiana, which is where the #1 place for incarceration is in Louisiana.
I think though, places like St. Louis, Missouri, and places like New Orleans, I mean, think in mind that there's still very much either well-to-do or you're not. It's kind of polarized. St. Louis is especially, actually, come to think of it, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is almost like a St. Louis in a way, where you have hyper-segregation, where people, no matter how well they do, unless you're one background, you're never going to make it. It's too closed of a society.